Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are having a great start to your day and a great week so far, rolling on through it, getting on through it, and getting a little bit closer to that weekend. There's a couple things to discuss in this morning's video. There is a severe weather threat for portions of the Mid-Atlantic Northeast today, and it could get all the way into areas like North Carolina, maybe Tennessee, heck, maybe even South Carolina late tonight, but really focusing in on the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic with this threat. There is a chance that, who knows, this might get upgraded to an enhanced risk. I'm not going to say that there isn't, but for now we'll focus on the fact that there is a slight risk for this morning. And it's going to be like a situation like last week where we had some ridge riders, but this is really being influenced by a trough that's coming through that's actually flattening out the ridge and going to provide some forcing, and then some big time storms are going to develop across portions of Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Maryland, and sink southward into Virginia. So we're going to talk about that, the big time heat. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider that. Like the video if you like it. You guys got anything that I can pray over, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it. And as always, it gives others an opportunity to do so too. So hit me up on social media, Twitter, Facebook, if you're big on that. If you're not, no worries. But it's a great way to interact with me, even when it's not about weather. You know, I'm always there for you guys to talk to. If you want to send me a message, I'm here for you. Got any prayer requests, you want to send it through message form, go ahead and do that. I'm always here for you guys. So let's get rocking and rolling this morning. Storm Prediction Center. Like I said, as of right now, as of 10 minutes to 7 Eastern time, we have a slight risk in this area. And, I would not be surprised if this gets extended a little further south in general, but we'll see. Right now, just a slight risk for this pretty large area, heavily populated area, the whole entire northern half of West Virginia, Northern Virginia, Maryland. This includes Baltimore and Washington, D.C., Southeast Ohio, a very small area of Kentucky. And I'll tell you, maybe this gets extended a little bit southwest into more of Kentucky if something like the NAM plays out. I'm going to compare the NAM with the HRRR model because, once again, with these kind of setups, they are much different. So we're going to compare them and see what each one looks like. The NAM is a little bit more aggressive for a more widespread area, but this slight risk extends all the way up into areas of New York State. So the threat today, really, there is a small tornado threat. There is a 2% chance in this green area. So there's an outside chance for a quick spin up. Some of these storms can be rotating, so we'll watch out for that. The wind damage threat, though, is the biggest threat with a 15% risk of damaging winds occurring in 25 miles in any given location. This is wind gusts pushing, 55, 60 miles per hour. So we need to watch out for this area today. I didn't really mention this area, but there is a chance for severe storms in areas of northern Oklahoma and southern Kansas today. So we'll watch out for that too. We'll talk briefly on that. There's also a hail threat, but it's very small. And I'll mention, there's a marginal risk in California. This does not happen often. We'll even talk a little bit about that a little bit later in the video. So let's get rocking and rolling, and let's take a look at water vapor loop, and you can really see what's going on here. The ridge is really starting to flatten out. It's really confined to this area right here. You're waking up some pretty uncomfortable conditions across areas of the western Ohio Valley, like Chicago, Illinois, areas of Indiana, Missouri, where you're waking up with temperatures in the upper 70s, around 80 degrees. It didn't really cool off much, but thankfully some more stable and more comfortable air will work its way through in this afternoon. But this cold front will begin to pick up a little bit of speed here, and then will actually provide the lift for some storms in this area of the country. You can see it kind of moving a little bit more drier area. You don't really get a nice punch of dry air with these cold fronts this time of the year, but it does bring in some much more comfortable air. And with an upper trough spinning through up here, and then the cold front at the surface moving down, you're going to have those severe storms today across this portion of the country. But it's going to be very hot across the southeast. It really is. That's going to be a big topic in this video. But let's talk about the severe weather threat first. So let's go over the NAM. Then we'll go over the HRRR model, and we'll break it up by segments here in each individual region. Let's really focus in on Pennsylvania and surrounding sections of each state around it. Going through here in time, we're getting through the mid-morning time. Got a pop-up shower storm maybe around the northern PA and New York State border. But in general, this will begin to really pop up here. Watch out Harrisburg, Williamsport. And you'll start to see some showers and storms as early as 1, 2 p.m. They start to really become more widespread and just more defined out here near Baltimore, Washington, D.C. And this is already going to be popping up early this afternoon. This is not going to be like a late afternoon, early evening threat. But here it goes, and I'll mention flooding can be a threat with this too. I should have pulled it up, but the excessive rainfall outlook, I'm sure, has like a marginal risk of flash flooding in this region. But the way that these are going to be moving north to south, they're not going to have that, west to east component speed to it or directional movement to it. So it's going to be kind of maybe going over the same areas for a period of time. So watch out. These storms can pack a punch. This is getting into 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon this afternoon in Baltimore and Washington. Some rocky weather, damaging winds with these storms. This is potentially what the radar could look like. But then you keep it rolling here, and maybe more storms form up here in Pennsylvania around State College as you're starting to get into around the 4 to 5, 6 p.m. range. And then look at more storms firing up near Pittsburgh. And these will continue at the same time. This little piece of energy is already moving into Northern Virginia by dinner time. I'm talking about 6, 7 o'clock this afternoon into this evening, and we'll get a little bit closer look at Virginia here in a second. But look at this other area of storms around dinner time, starting to move into western areas of Maryland, into northern West Virginia. Watch out Morgantown, and this could start to turn into a line of storms that works through, and then maybe a damaging wind threat really begins to escalate here and get a little bit higher, and this is what we watch out for. And then, like I said, more storms working its way through Washington and Baltimore, higher populated area, Philadelphia. You might be on the eastern fringe of the worst weather, but there's still a chance for some severe storms for you guys. This continues to move southward and maybe turn into just a nasty line of storms. It's something we need to watch out for to see if it unfolds. This is the NAM for areas a little further south. And here it is. Check out this first area of storms. This is, about mid-afternoon, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Charlottesville, potentially a nasty line of storms moving through Charlottesville, Richmond, all the way down to southeast portions of Virginia, and then even getting down to Elizabeth City, North Carolina. So, some of this nasty weather, according to the NAM, can hold and stay confined all the way down into areas of North Carolina, which is a little unexpected maybe a couple of days ago, but, I would lean towards this guidance. I really would. So, as we're getting into, a little bit later this afternoon, later this evening, watch out Raleigh. Start looking to your north, to your northeast. Maybe a line of storms that one might be weakening at this time starts to work its way into your area. So we'll watch out. That's why there's a marginal risk for severe storms extended down into northeast North Carolina. But, look at this storm. These storms moving into Charleston, West Virginia, around... this is probably around dinner time, so around 7, 8 p.m. is around when these storms. I always like to give a range of hours, not an exact, around 8 p.m. exactly, some storms are going to work its way into Charleston, West Virginia. I go off what I see up here, and this is reading in a time frame where most of the audience isn't going to understand, but this is around 8 p.m. Eastern time. It's in military time, so I say most of the audience. I think most people actually know how to do military time up here, but in general, this is around 8 p.m. So we start to watch out for some nasty storms working its way through central West Virginia. But look over here in Kentucky. These storms are working its way into Kentucky also. We're getting into later in the evening around 10 p.m. and these storms are still trying to hold on. And Roanoke, watch out later this evening. When most people are starting to lay their kids down, you're starting to mellow down for the night. A weakening line of storms could make its way all the way into the Piedmont, the Triad of North Carolina. And then we look at Kentucky, and Tennessee. These storms, per the NAM, want to extend as far west as central areas of Kentucky. So, watch out Lexington, Kentucky, Jackson, Kentucky. These will try to make its way all the way to Tennessee, but I think they will weaken very quickly before they even make it in Knoxville or Nashville, but you could get some rain, some showers. Now, the HRRR model, this is what the HRRR model shows. It's a little different, but in general, kind of showing the same kind of deal in this part right here in Pennsylvania, Maryland. But it shows some big storms firing up pretty early this afternoon, around 4 or 5 p.m., maybe firing up a little bit later than what the NAM is showing, but it shows, a corridor of nasty storms surging from north to south all the way into northern areas of Virginia. But it has these worst storms initially, maybe west of Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. So it's going to be really hard to figure out where these hit the worst. But, as we're working our way into around dinner time, it still has some big time storms firing up here and even in New York State. And I mean, you check this out, unless, clicked a little bit too far ahead. We're getting into, around 10 p.m., 10 p.m., you got some nasty storms right over here near Pittsburgh. And this is potentially how the radar can look. We're just not quite sure. But you notice it's just a north to south. That's why flooding could could become a possibility in this kind of setup. But it continues to form. It's just a stream of steady moisture and storms that are going over these areas. And some of these areas are some higher elevation areas. So we need to watch out for that. Obviously, flooding becomes a big deal when you're in higher elevation with, rock slides, things like that, and just mudslides. But, it's not like you have 4,000 or 5,000 foot mountains in this region, but there is some higher elevations into this region of the country, and especially in western Maryland and West Virginia. But these storms continue, but they just look a little bit more different if you compare it to the NAM. And, you go on and switch this and look down into Virginia. And one thing you'll notice right off the dot is the fact that I gotta quit doing that. That is becoming annoying. One thing you'll notice is it's kind of the same kind of setup based off the NAM over here. You're getting into around 10 p.m. and you got some heavier rain, some storms around Richmond, down up to near Charlottesville, down near Norfolk, Virginia. I always get scared to say that, guys, because I feel like I butcher it every time. I really struggle with that during the wintertime. Norfolk, whatever y'all call it. It seems like I made a poll on Twitter. It was funny. I had like 4 different things that you could call it, and it was wild. And I had a lot of people from that area say different things. So whatever y'all want to call y'all city down there in Southeast Virginia, and that is always why I say Southeast Virginia, to avoid saying that city, because I don't want to mess it up and get close to saying a bad word while saying it. But anyways, let's get rolling. You notice on the HRRR model, not a lot of storm coverage to the west and over here in Kentucky. Maybe a pop-up shower storm near Lexington, Kentucky. But in general, the coverage further west on the HRRR model isn't really there. In fact, it doesn't really show any storms getting to Charleston, West Virginia, for example, when the NAM shows a big-time line of storms working its way through the entire state of West Virginia. But the HRRR model only shows storms in the eastern part of the state. That's an example there. But both models show some lingering moisture making it all the way through Virginia into North Carolina. But how intense will it be by the time it gets to southern VA, northern areas of North Carolina? That's a big question. But this is really being fueled off basically a big-time moist sector rising ahead of the cold front. Therefore, you're going to have some Cape levels that are really going to spike this initiation of these storms that eventually starts to sag southward and get downstream. But you have Cape, the mixed layer Cape, reaching 2,000-3,000 joules per kilogram in this range. And you just got to watch out, because these storms are going to fire up with just a moist corridor at the surface and just the lift with the cold front moving through. And you notice behind the cold front, which is out here, air becomes much more stable. So we look down here in the southeast. Need to speed up this video. This is a longer one. I did not anticipate it being this long, but you look at the southeast and you just watch. You watch this area of storms, and I'll just look at the NAM, for example. How far south does these line of storms get? NAM really has it stopping before it gets to Georgia or the Carolinas, but we'll have to watch and see how that happens overnight tonight. The HRRR model, we'll take a look at that for the north central U.S. Very quiet day, very chill day, not a whole lot going on. The south central U.S., I know you folks out there need rain in Texas. I'm just not really seeing anything widespread today. But some pop-up showers and storms, if you're lucky, could form even all the way out here in the drought-stricken areas of Texas. So you want to hope and pray that one of these just happen to fall right on your location, but it's going to be feast and famine out there is not everybody is going to get to see rain, but there could be some pop-up downpours. So hopefully it's more widespread than what the models are showing. But check out these storms forming in southern areas of Kansas, northern Oklahoma. These could pack a punch, could be a small tornado threat and a small hail threat, small damaging wind threat. And there's a chance that some of these storms, if you just happen to be a storm chaser out here, it could be rather photogenic. So somebody could get lucky. But there's probably going to be, 2, 3, maybe 4 big storms out here that we need to watch out for. So be careful. It's not going to be widespread, but a very confined area that could see some nasty storms out here in this part of the country for sure. As this rides the ridge that is actually flattened out. You can actually see it start. It initially moves northeast and then it begins to move just due east, and that is because you have this ridge over this portion of the country right here. So it's always cool to watch these little pieces of energy ride the upper base, southern base of these ridges for sure. Check out California doing its thing. Southern Cal could see some severe storms today. Biggest threat with these, if there's any real threat at all, is damaging winds, maybe some small hail, but widespread showers and storms, even in the higher elevations of California and the valleys of California, southern valleys. So watch out for this today. I'm not certainly not an expert of talking California weather. I know it's geographically much different than everybody else out east that I'm normally used to talking to. But in general, if you're in southern to maybe central areas of California, some severe storms is possible today, which is not super common for this portion of the country. The heat today, and I hate I'm 16 minutes in and just talking about this, but sometimes that's just the way it goes. You can tell where the ridge is flattened out. There's a little bit of a boundary setting up here where basically the hottest weather is to the south and more cooler, more drier areas to the north. So the heat is really going to flex. Some hundreds are possible even in southeast Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, all these states of the deep south, the Carolinas. But I think this area right here, Georgia, South Carolina, maybe even North Carolina, is going to be by far the hottest today. Certain areas could nip 105 degrees. And I think some records are going to be smashed today for sure. It's much nicer up here in the northeast where you're not, under the influence of this ridge and you're still just on the northeast fringe of the ridge. So you're just not being influenced by it at all, just some consistent troughing. But the good news, if there's any good news at all with the heat today, it's not comparable to what our heat was last week. Last week we had a moist flow. The surface, the dew points were awful. So you had a high heat index. The heat index was about as much as 10 to almost 12 degrees above what the actual air temperature was. In this case today, where the hottest temperatures are going to be, you're going to have a pocket of dry air. What you're seeing here is dew points. Dew points, below 60 is, relatively comfortable. Once you start to get dew points in the 50s, that is, pretty much comfortable. Anything lower than that, you get drier and drier to the point where you need chapstick. So, in general, you look at this, dew points in the 30s and 40s. So there's not going to be any humidity today. It's going to be hotter in Hades. Yeah, probably over 100 degrees in some of these same areas, anywhere from Macon, Georgia to Augusta to Columbia up to Charlotte to Fayetteville. Probably will nip over 100 degrees, break some records potentially. But the dew points are so low in the 40s and 50s that you're going to walk outside and you're going to say, wow, it's really hot. But, it's just going to feel more like a dry heat. It's not going to be absolutely horrible like I think last week was. So much different kind of heat today. But that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all have an awesome Wednesday, and I'll talk to y'all this evening.